Hello. Today we are going to be talking about object classes. As you should know, all anomalous objects, entities, and phenomena requiring special containment procedures are assigned an object class. An object class is a part of the SCP's status and serves as a rough indicator of how difficult an object is to contain. Object classes are for the purposes of identifying containment needs, research priority, budgeting, and other considerations. An SCP's object class is determined by a number of factors, but the most important factors are the difficulty and the purpose of its containment. Soon we'll be talking about primary classes and then the more out there classes. Let's begin. Okay, let's start off with the primary classes. These are the most common object classes used in most documents of SCPs you will see and make up the bulk of the objects that you will encounter. We're going to start off with Safe, then Euclid, then Keter, then Thaumiel. Okay, let's go.
Okay, let's go with Safe. Safe class SCPs are anomalies that are easily and safely contained. This is often due to the fact that the Foundation has researched the SCP well enough that containment does not require significant resources, or that the anomalies require a specific and conscious activation or triggers. Classifying an SCP as safe, however, does not mean that handling or activating it does not pose a threat. We're going to be talking about all of the safe SCPs, but as an example, SCP-005. You can research that on your own time, unless it's classified. I'm not sure. Anyways, let's move on.
Alright, next up is Euclid. Euclid class SCPs are anomalies that require more resources to contain completely or where containment isn't always reliable. Usually this is because the SCP is insufficiently understood or inherently unpredictable. Euclid is the object class with the greatest scope, and is usually a safe bet that an SCP will be in this class if it doesn't easily fall into any of the other standard object classes. As a note, any SCP that's autonomous, sentient, and or sapient is generally classified as Euclid due to the inherent unpredictability of an object that can act or think on its own. We will state the rest of the Euclid SCPs, but as an example, SCP-173. Okay, now let's go with Keter. Keter class SCPs are anomalies that are exceedingly difficult to contain consistently or reliably, with containment procedures often being extensive and complex. The Foundation often can't contain these SCPs, due to not having a solid understanding of the anomaly or lacking the technology to properly contain or counter it. A Keter SCP does not mean the SCP is dangerous, just that it is simply very difficult or costly to contain. We're going to explain all of the Keter SCPs, but as an example, SCP-682. Now let's talk about... Next up is Neutralized. Neutralized SCPs are anomalies that are no longer anomalous, either though they have been intentionally or accidentally destroyed or disabled. We will talk about all of the neutralized SCPs later, but as an example, SCP-1762. Rest in peace. Now we're going to talk about some of the non-standard object classes, because the following object classes are subclasses that supplement the object's primary or former classification. Object Class Explained. Explained SCPs are commonly articles about anomalies that are completely and fully understood to the point where their effects are now explainable by mainstream science or phenomena that have been debunked or falsely mistaken as an anomaly. We're going to talk about all of the explained SCPs later, but as an example, SCP-002-EX. The X stands for explained. Last, but probably not least, esoteric narrative classes. Esoteric object classes, also occasionally referred to as narrative classes, are object classes that do not fall into any of the above sections. They are generally only used once and are created to further understand a particular SCP. It is highly recommended that SCPs use one of the standard object classes listed here. While some scientists choose to introduce exceptions to these rules, they are only very rarely done and need to justify their existence and placement. Many scientists get punished for non-standard object class if used without merit. We're going to talk about a number of esoteric objects later on. Now I'm going to take some time to answer some questions that you may have about the SCP object classes. For example, what is the locked box test? The locked box test is an informal guideline used to determine an object's most appropriate object class. It goes like this. If you lock a box, leave it alone, and nothing bad will happen, then it's probably safe. If you lock it in a box, leave it alone, and you're not entirely sure what will happen, then it's probably a Euclid. If you lock it in a box, leave it alone, and it easily escapes, then it's probably Keter. Note that, as a special consideration, something that is autonomous, alive, and or sapient is almost always at least Euclid class. That is, if you lock a living thing in a box and forget about it, it will eventually suffocate or starve to death, and that's not a good outcome. Something that is intelligent could also end up being smart enough to outwit its containment procedures, and or stop cooperating with the Foundation's attempts to contain it, making it more dangerous than it otherwise might be. If you have any more questions, ask your supervisor or of your site, and they'll probably answer them if they're allowed to. All right. Let's hope that you're alive tomorrow. End of tape.